Hi. So I just decided to just do a normal video. Um, and so the topic that I'm going to talk about are why some southern vowels sound different. So like when most people think of a southern accent, they usually think like speech like sounding slower or maybe like drawn out or maybe even like more relaxed. Most of us, like, I think, can recognize like a southern accent almost immediately. And like even if like we cannot explain like really exactly what makes a sound different. Um and so I think a big part of that comes from like the vowel pronunciation. And so I think like this topic is really interesting because people sometimes assume accents are just like random ways of like talking, but linguists have found that accents actually follow patterns and rules. And so Southern speech is not like necessarily wrong English, it's just a different dialect that has developed over time and just has gone through tons of history and like geography and like different cultures, across like time. And so I think like for first like in understanding like the topic, like we have to understand like the vowels. And so vowels, as we all know, are speech sounds where like the airflow is not blocked like in your mouth, but the position of your tongue and like your mouth can like change how like, the vowel sounds. And so even like the smallest difference can completely change like the way like the words and like sound to people. And so one example people often notice when it comes to like the South is like the difference between like saying pin and pen. Now in my accent it sounds like the same word, but like I'm doing like the pin PEN and then the pin PIN. And in many southern accents, like those two like words almost sound the exact same. Now, like another example would be like time and ride. Now, in Southern speech, like those words can also sound more stretched out or even flattened compared to other American accents. And you can't really tell with my like accent, but I don't know. But like growing up around like Southern speech, like a lot of people probably like do not even realize like the differences until like someone from another region like points them out. Like you got someone from the north talking to a southern person, they're obviously going to have some differences in speech. And so that is because like the way people speak usually feels like normal to like the people around us. And so southern people are talking to southern people, like we often don't realize like if we even have accents of our own until we talk to someone who doesn't have our accent. And so linguists say like these pronunciations differ, are systematic, meaning that they follow like consistent language patterns. And so like one of the main reasons why vowels sound different is because of something called the Southern vowel shift. Now this was actually really cool, and like I love social studies, and so this was really interesting to like read about. But the Southern vowel shift is basically like a gradual change in like vowel pronunciation that has happened over time across many Southern dialects. Now we talked about it a little bit in our class, and like when one vowel sound starts changing, another vowel sound will also start to change too. So like the sound in words like time may sound flatter or longer in Southern speech. Other vowels also like move closer, which that helps explain why pin and pin can also sound alike. And researchers like study these changes through phonetics, which is the study of speech and sounds, which we all know from our classes. So some linguists study how the mouth and the tongue physically produce sounds, while others study like the sound waves in like recordings. And one linguist that I was reading about connects really well to this topic, and we've talked about him in our class too, and we were just tested over him too, is, I'm gonna butcher his name, but William Lavovo. I don't, but he studied language variation and argued that dialects are ruled governed systems. And so basically he believed like non-standard dialects are not broken English, but they are organized forms of language with their own patterns and rules. And so I think that this is important because Southern accents are sometimes unfairly stereotyped, like in movies and like or media, like people with some Southern accents are often portrayed as like the less educated or like the less intelligent, which is obviously like not true. Like coming from like a Southern person, but like it's just some of like the stereotypes that they have. And so linguists like LeBeau have pushed back against like these ideas and like have showed like the dialect differences are a natural part of language and not just like ear literacy, as you can say. So, but a big part of the Southern language has been history. History has played a huge role in shaping Southern speech. Many Southern communities where like more rural, I can't say that word, rural and isolated for long periods of time, so like the speech pattern stayed more stable and like developed differently from like other parts of the country. Now we also have settlement patterns, which matter a lot too. So like groups from like England and Scotland and Ireland brought different ways of speaking with them when they settled in the South, like to the New World. And over time, like those speech patterns blended all together, and like they slowly evolved into the Southern accents like we hear today. And so like another important thing is that not all Southern accents sound the same. Someone from Georgia may sound someone like a little bit different from someone from North Carolina or Tennessee or Texas. Like even like within the same state, accents can change depending on the region or community that you're in. Like I'm from North Georgia, and like I can talk to a Milledgeville local, or a Mocal, and like they could have a different Southern accent than I can, coming from more of north of Georgia than more of the south of Georgia. And so, excuse me. So I feel like with studies of how like language connects to like identity and like the society, I feel like many people accents are connected to family and culture and like where people have come from. The way people speak can often like become part of their identity. And so another theorist that I feel like connects to this topic is Ferdinand de Saussure. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but his last name is Saussure. He believed that language is shaped by social groups and sorry, and like the shared understanding. And so like I feel like that idea connects really well to like the Southern speech because accents develop within communities and become part of like the culture to those communities. And I think like one of the coolest parts of this topic is realizing that language is always changing, and sorry, and like no dialect stays like the exact same forever. Southern English like continues to evolve, just like any other dialect does. And I feel like Southern vowels, overall sound like different because like the way the language has changed in like its history and geography and like the wars that have come in, like I feel like the Civil War was like a huge part of like the South and shaping its identity, and like the Southern vowel shift changed like punctuation, and it like changed patterns like over time, and while like the culture and community help preserve those speech patterns and like across generations. And so I feel like Southern dialects are so important, and they're so meaningful, and have like their own patterns and history and structure, as like any like other dialect does. And I think like within time, like it just has shaped into what it has become now. And so yeah, that is Southern language.